Great sound. Yes, and it is Phil Collins. And what's he doing playing in a big band? Well, stick around and you'll soon find out. Okay, well, my next guest started life as a child model, became a drummer with the legendary rock group Genesis, took over as lead singer, and then created a solo career in which he sold more than 75 million albums. In the history of modern pop music, he's that rarity, the rock and roller who could slug it out with the best of them, but whose heroes included Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Duke Ellington, and Buddy Rich. He's formed a big band to acknowledge his love of their kind of music. Now, the song he's going to sing tonight in the company of the BBC Big Band is a classic Duke Ellington, Billy Strayhorn number called Do Nothing Till You Hear From Me. Ladies and gentlemen, Phil Collins.
Nothing till you hear from me. Pay no attention to what's said. What people tear the seam of anyone's dream. It's over my head. Do nothing till you hear from me. At least consider our romance. If you should take the word of others you heard, well, I haven't got a chance. Well, it's true, I've been seen with someone new, but does that mean that I've been true? When we're apart, the words in my heart, they reveal how I feel about you. Some kiss may cloud my memory, and other arms may hold a thrill. Oh yes, they will. But don't do nothing until you hear it from me. Oh, and you never will. How I feel about you. Some kiss may cloud my memory, other arms may hold a thrill. Oh yes, they will. But don't do nothing until you hear it from me. Oh, and you never will. Oh no. Do nothing till you hear from me. Yeah.
You do that, Laura. That's a great sound, that.
Lovely, isn't it?
Yeah. Is that where it all started for you, that kind of music?
Well, I was listening. I mean, I grew up with the Beatles, you know, as everybody of my age did. Yeah. But at the same time, you know, in 1966, I bought a Buddy Rich album, the Swinging New Big Band, and I said, that's what I want to do one day when I grow up. And I've grown up, so now I'm doing it. So now I'm doing it.
Be a drummer in a band.
Yeah.
So all that stuff about being a rock star, rock singer, that happened by chance a bit.
That was just getting to this place.
Yeah. You're a late developer like John, you see. Basically,
Yeah,
that's
right.
that's what it's been. Now, he loves musicians. What do you think about politicians? Come on, tell me.
Oh, well,
I don't... And I don't wish to put you on the spot, but didn't you want to say something very rude about the Labour Party?
No, actually, I didn't.
All right.
No, but I didn't say anything really particularly about the
go
Labour
on,
Party. What everybody assumes I'm a Conservative. I earn a lot of money, and so therefore people think you're a Conservative. And it's not actually true at all. I'm really neither one nor the other, to be honest. But my father voted Conservative, and I suppose that somewhere along the line that makes me a Conservative. But basically...
Genetically a Conservative.
Yes, genetically Conservative. But I really haven't voted for a long time, mainly because I'm out of the country, you know, when the elections are on, or have been, coincidentally. But I once said that when there was an election coming up, and because I'm thought of as the Conservative, along with Andrew Lloyd Webber, who probably is a Conservative, that I'm good for a quote, you know, against the Labour Party. And actually what I said was, whoever gets in, if they put the tax up to a point where they're taking more than I'm getting, I'd think twice about staying in a country that did that. Now, it's well documented how much money I've got. And
how much?
Lots of it. And you know, therefore, I've paid a lot of tax, so I've got no problem with paying tax. But if someone gives you £1,000 or £100, you know, 100 in one hand and takes 60 back in the other, enough times, you say, excuse me, why are you taking more than I'm getting here? And I just think that simply, and I'm very, you know...
Is 50-50 all right?
50-50 or less would be fine. 50-50 is, you know...
Sign him up for 50, it's all right.
Put me down for 50, John. I can deal with that, you know, but, you know, I think if anybody had the same situation, you'd say that. I mean, I didn't leave the country because of it. I mean,
You're not a tax excel?
No.
I thought it because you were a train robber.
Well, there's more likelihood of me being in Switzerland because of that. No, I moved out of England because I met a lady that lived somewhere else. And if she lived in Grimsby, I'd be living in Grimsby. You know,
From the point of view of the way that you've been reported, the way that in recent years you've been perceived by the tabloid press particularly, I mean, did that make it easier to quit England?
The tabloids had, you know, they didn't make me
They have cuttings, don't
think
they?
twice.
Whatever you say once constantly comes up because they go to this cuttings thing.
Oh, that's right. I mean, you can say something the way you felt that particular day, as this thing with tax. When it was quoted in the paper at the election before last, it was old news then, you know, and suddenly these things come back to haunt you. And...
But what about the stuff, I mean, when they get, I mean, misquoting is one thing, but an intrusion, some might say, into your private life, I mean, as you've had. I mean, well, first of all, how do you view that? And secondly, when people talk about an intrusion into their private lives, what exactly are you talking about? I mean, how bad is it? What happens?
Oh, well, it depends, different things to different people. I mean, in my instance, a 5-page fax appeared on the front of the Sun, you know.
Which suggests that that's how you're going to divorce your wife.
Well, that's where the stories get confused, you see. Actually, the fax was on the front page of the Sun, and who knows how it got there, because I didn't send it, you know. So somehow it got there. And, of course, no one knows why the fax was sent, apart from me and the people involved.
This is a fax to your wife?
Yes.
Now your ex-wife?
Yes.
Yes.
At a time when we weren't able to communicate very well, you
yes.
know, and because the phone was going down and stuff, the only way I could actually, you know, tell her what I wanted to say was by faxing her. Right. Unfortunately, because the thing, all that appeared in the press was that fax, and then somewhere along the line, the story was misconstrued as that I'd faxed for a divorce, which I didn't do. And but it's like anything with Elton John stuff, in The Sun, you've only got to suggest it, and of course, that's it. You'll never, even though he won the case against the Sun, and even though they claim, it was all, it's still the thing that people remember, and people remember me as the guy that probably, anyway.
The axe by fax.
Yeah.
That was the thing, wasn't it?
Which is unfortunate, and that's where I think that the tabloids and stuff, have a lot to answer for, because they're dealing with, they forget sometimes. They live in shit, they don't smell it anymore. They don't, they actually... they actually don't realise that they're dealing with real people, with real feelings. And this kind of stuff affects, whether I'm in a public eye or whether I'm someone who works in a bank every day from 10 till whatever. It affects us all the same way, and they don't seem to think that.
I mean, what's your view on this, John, about press intrusion? A lot of debate about it nowadays. I mean, now within Parliament.
I resent most about it. I'm a public politician, public person, so I have to take it. I don't like it whenever it happens, but, they have people following you around everywhere, looking for any kind of slip, any kind of personal life, constantly doing that. What I resent most of all is that when they make all these allegations and charges and something happens, they then camp outside your house and then subject your wife and the family to that kind of problem. They have to live with the name. Now, I resent that very much, and I've been involved in stopping things that go out into the press on one occasion because it affects affects them very much so. I remember there was an occasion once when it was suggested that there was a story, front page in the Mirror, because I'd been on a television programme talking about Clinton and his affairs. This goes back to phase one, some time ago, you remember? And we were just talking about it, and then
Double figures now.
Yeah, and then somebody said to me, said, you had an affair, and I said, absolute rubbish. Somebody's accused me. I absolutely deny it. Typical press. It wasn't true. Front page Mirror. Prescott denies affair. Well,
it's a classic exploit, isn't it?
Classic, you deny it. Yeah. But then they camped outside my home, going around asking everybody, does he have affairs? Do you have affairs? All that kind of stuff, right? One of them rang my wife. She picked the phone up. She said, Mr. Prescott, do you have any affairs? She said, affairs? She said, I'm too busy ironing to have affairs. But, I mean, they get subjected to it. It's quite wrong, frankly. And they just camp outside.
There's an awful lot of, we have to... I don't want to sound like a, a scalded cat or something. I mean, the fact is that it's all part and parcel of what you do. It's just a question, you have to accept it, that you are of interest to people.
But it's not, your private life is not part and parcel
It shouldn't
of the
be, but
public domain.
it is. But, it kind of is. It shouldn't be, but it is. So that's the fact of life.
Only if you make it that.
Well, you have no control over it.
Well, no, but some people do make it that. I mean, some people actually bask in the limelight.
It's just about selling papers, though, isn't it? They know if you get a story like that, it actually does sell
Would you
them.
control it? I mean, would you be in favour of legislation to control it?
I'm in favour of protecting people who are not really connected to this, that simply happen to be married to a politician or their sons or daughters of it. I don't think they should be subjected to that kind of thing that goes on.
But do you... I mean, this is something I was asked the other day, actually. I mean, should it be kept from us, for example, that Kennedy was a promiscuous man? Or should we know that he wasn't the great hero that we all thought him to be? Is it, should we be protected from the truth? And, I mean, I don't really want to know if Bing Crosby beat his kids, you know what I mean? But the fact is that, where do you draw the line, And it's between truth and sort of censorship.
And I think they get it wrong sometimes. One thing, for example, I'd said I was no longer working class or middle class kind of guy now, living in kind of
You're living middle class.
There was a big issue about whether Prescott now goes middle class. He's no longer working class. Shock news, all over the papers and editorials, editorials and everything. And then we had all that argument, and oh yes, so they decided to put a picture of me in the paper. Champagne socialist. I'd gone to some Brit Awards, right? And I was drinking Beck's beer. Well, Beck's beer's got that kind of paper at the top, so they cropped it to make it look like a champagne bottle, right? And then brushed out, took it out the photo, the obvious beer bottle. And then the same picture was put in the Times, and you could see the difference. I made a few bob on that. But, why did they have to do that? Why did, say, in this case, the Evening Standard decide just to lie in the picture? And they didn't put down. Now, when they apologise, they never put it on the front page. No. It's always at the back. They should be forced to put it and give the same prominence to the mistake and the apology as they gave to the allegation that was proved to be wrong.
I'm with you on that. Absolutely. All right.
Now, this... We're both going to be in for it next week, you know that.
I mean, for it all the time.
This business now, the change of musical, well, it's not changing musical direction. I mean, you've just sort of...
Doing it as well. Really.
Doing it as well, yes. Because, but is there a, I mean, what are you, 47 now? 40?
Yes, 47.
47.
Just last week.
Just last
So only just 47.
Now, is there a newly born 47? Is there a moment in time when you actually decide, as a you know, rocker, that going out, touring on stage, standing up there, having women throw their knickers at you, that enough's enough?
Well, certain aspects of it. Actually, I did a tour this last year, you know. We toured Europe for 2.5 months, toured America for 2.5 months, and I never really did anything other than just stand there and sing. So that you can actually do that pretty much for as long as you feel like doing it.
Yes.
It's not a point where you become looking a little silly, you know. But
what about that? I mean, it always occurred to me whenever I went to a rock concert, and I saw you in Australia, and I've seen you before, so we got in front of this huge audience, 70,000 people, and you stand there, and this wall of noise hits you. I mean, it must be, in all the performing, the biggest buzz that there is, and there must be a kind of an adrenaline charge, if you like,
yeah.
that's irreplaceable in a sense.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I would never give up that thing of getting an instant feedback, you know, from an audience. Is, for example, movie stars. You know, they, you know, I've been told many times that they've had the guys have these conversations about, you know, what the best gig of the world is. Or they're very successful actors, and they all say that being a rock and roll musician is probably one of the best ones because they get instant gratification.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
whereas movies, they never get any gratification. Apart
Well,
from
what kind of rock and roller were you on the road? I mean, did you get mixed up in all the drug scene and all that sort of stuff at all?
Well, only if you've got me, man.
And do you ever trash a hotel room? I mean, all this stuff that's the legend of being on the road with a rock band.
No, I clear things up. I do. I seriously. I mean, you asked my
Something
son.
like the job I had. Not less pay.
My son's here, and he was used to, you know, come on the road with us. I'd go into his room and tidy his clothes up, and say, you know, because the maid's going to be coming in soon to do the thing, you know, just, you know, put the paper back on the soap, you know. I mean, literally, I mean, without being too manic about it, but I do that. I mean, I'm too embarrassed. I feel so sorry for when you go walk past these open doors in hotels, and there's stuff all over the floor, people have just left, and these are businessmen as well, and politicians. These aren't rock people.
Yes.
And, you know, and the maids, and I think the maid must walk in there and say, oh, not another one. And I get too embarrassed by that.
Yeah.
I'm far too polite.
What about the nowadays when you stand on stage? I mean, you've always had these wonderful female followers. I said last time I talked to you, we talked about the knickers that were thrown at you on stage. And does that still happen, by the way?
Yeah, those two people still come to my
They
stage.
still come. The large bloomers now. The
Yeah,
last year. I know that.
They have someone else to throw them up now.
Sorry.
Yeah, yes, we don't have that anymore. Actually, we do get the odd bit of clothing, but there was that one Genesis tour, which was quite extraordinary. We played 3 dates in Detroit, and the first night, we've never, ever had stuff like underwear. Shoes occasionally, the odd shoe, the one shoe. And I always think
With
it's
the address in it, I think.
Oh, yes, sometimes, yeah. But the person has to go home, you know. You know, in a fit of pique, he throws this shoe. You know, 2 hours later, when he's sober, he thinks, oh, no, you know. Well, the underwear was thrown up, and I thought this was incredible. 2 nights, 3 nights running, this was fun. So we started collecting it, because we were in one place for 3 nights. We just thought, this is great. It's the beginning of a tour, 10-month tour. Think how much we'll have at the end. We can sort of do something with it. I don't know what. You know, after
Have a party.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that. After 3 days, the underwear was stolen.
Ah.
Yeah. So I actually think that the only stranger than underwear being thrown up is actually someone stealing underwear. You know, a bag of someone else's used underwear. Strange.
But I mean, John, you're a bit of a sex symbol too, aren't you? I mean,
I wouldn't say so.
no, well, I mean, come on. If you, it's strange. Actually.
Well, all right.
All right. Then. Under pressure, because I mean,
I'm trying to put my chin out, but it's in.
I read your biography, and I read that poem that New Zealand poetess wrote about you. Well, I will embarrass you about it. No, I will read it because it's rather
You will
nice.
embarrass me.
Her name is Fleur Adcock, and she's a poet from New Zealand. And she had this dream about going out with a fantasy man who was John Prescott. Well, don't go, missus. I mean, it's when you read his,
don't go like that.
when you read his cuttings, there are lots of ladies, lady journalists, they don't have fancy. But she said this, John. I mean, our eyes had looked, and we were leaning avidly forward, lips outturned, certain protuberances under our clothing, brushing each other's front.
I had to get out a dictionary to find out what protuberance is. That's quite embarrassing.
Has he got an address in that?
I was much taken by that, though. I mean, it's...
I thought it was quite remarkable. And I found out she was 69.
So it could have a different meaning, protuberances, then, if she was 69, I suppose. Going back to what we're talking to John about there, the business about, you know, how you get to where you are now, to where you're from. I mean, what you must think about it. In fact, you mentioned that when you first came on. I mean, it's a strange journey, isn't it? I mean,
well, when you were saying that, you know, it's exactly the same. You know, you reach... When I was growing up, all I wanted to do... My main ambition was just to be a drummer and to have other drummers respect me. That's all I wanted to do. And then it was, you know, forming a group and playing the marquee in Wardour Street was the pinnacle of anybody's... I could understand anybody. There wasn't anything else. So, you know, played the marquee. But by the time you get there, oh, no, there's all that up there, you know. Then you get there, and then and then suddenly you realise there's another continent. So there's always... You know.
The beauty of that, though, as I found, I'm sure it's the same with Phil, you actually enjoy that stage.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
really pleased to be there, so you actually enjoy it. And I think
That's as good as it's going to get.
And then you move on to next where. Mind you, when you go into a shadow cabinet like me and I look round and say, well, I think I'm as good as these guys, like, you know.
Yes.
But basically, some come into politics, they've got it in their mind, you know, 10 years to be in the cabinet and then 20 years to be the Prime Minister or something. Now they even do it quicker, but I won't go into that. And if you look at that, they get disappointed because they've got somewhere up there.
They've got a
and
game.
if they're off course, they have to keep correcting it. And they get so miserable about correcting to become the leader that they don't enjoy the period of time they're in. So when you're surprised to have got where you've got, you have real enjoyment from it. So I've been pleased with my life. I've had great enjoyment from it, and I've enjoyed each phase of it. And I'm certainly enjoying this one I've got now.
Yeah, good. But now tell me then about this this next number you're going to play for us. So this is going to feature you as a drummer with a BBC Big Band. This is a Genesis
a Genesis
song.
tune, yeah, that's all. It's a Genesis tune. And we had all the tunes we do with the Big Band are either my tunes or Genesis tunes, and we got some arrangers, Big Band arrangers, established arrangers. This was arranged by John Clayton, who's done a lot of things, and it's good.
It's good. All right, cool. There you go. Phil Collins and the Big Band. enjoyed that. Thanks to John Prescott, to Phil Collins and the BBC Big Band, of course, Laurie Holloway conducting them.
Next week, Michael is joined by Rory Bremner, Ewan McGregor and Robbie Williams when Parkinson returns. Tomorrow night, former South African President Nelson Mandela opens a two-day conference on what makes a champion. Don't miss Straight Talk with Nelson Mandela tomorrow night at 9:30. Coming up, Tracy takes on politics.